Frederick Charles moved to the city unnoticed, wearing plain clothes and performing odd jobs. Though he secretly owned multiple corporations, he chose invisibility to study humanity up close. He cleaned offices, repaired elevators, and carried heavy tools, observing the way people treated one another. In quiet moments, he sketched designs, wrote notes about human behavior, and ran through the parks at dawn. He believed that understanding people was more powerful than wealth. Despite his fortune, he lived humbly, learning patience and humility, while the world remained unaware of the man quietly shaping destinies from the shadows. Carol Richard thrived in the opposite world. Raised by status-driven parents, she learned early that appearances defined worth. She curated her life carefully, designer outfits, polished speech, and carefully timed smiles. At work, she excelled in real estate acquisitions, impressing clients with charm and authority. Her hobbies were social, elite events, fashion, and studying influential people. Carol's dreams revolve around power and admiration, never empathy. She viewed those beneath her with disdain. When she first noticed Frederick, she assumed he was just another invisible worker. Little did she know, this unassuming man would become central to the unraveling of her carefully built life. Frederick first interacted with Carol in the office lobby. He accidentally brushed against her while moving a broken cabinet. Carol snapped instantly, mocking his worn appearance and assumed poverty. Frederick apologized calmly, showing no embarrassment or resentment. Carol's confidence faltered for a moment, though she quickly hid it behind arrogance. She dismissed him and walked away, unaware that he had begun observing her, learning her habits, her fears, and her ambitions. Frederick's silence was deliberate. He understood that patience, observation, and timing would give him the power to influence events more effectively than confrontation ever could. Weeks passed, and Frederick continued his work while silently tracking Carol's behavior. He noted how she berated colleagues, manipulated clients, and displayed fear of losing control. Carol, meanwhile, used him for small errands, mocking his clothes and manners, enjoying the imbalance of power. Frederick complied without complaint, learning everything about her life. He observed her relationship with Michael Preston, her controlling fiancé, who became increasingly reckless with investments. The tension in her personal life grew, and Frederick saw cracks in her facade. Her arrogance made her blind to the quiet man observing her, waiting for the precise moment to act. Frederick found subtle ways to challenge Carol without revealing his identity. He corrected minor office errors, organized documents she overlooked, and prevented small disasters that could humiliate her publicly. Carol, oblivious to his capabilities, assumed he was just efficient by chance. She continued her pattern of belittling him and others, reinforcing her dominance. Frederick watched without comment, learning how her mind worked and where her weaknesses lay. He realized her obsession with appearances left her vulnerable to situations where her arrogance could be exposed. He decided to let events unfold naturally, knowing patience would amplify the impact when the moment arrived. Carol's home life grew tense, as Michael's reckless financial decisions created friction. Arguments filled their penthouse, and Carol's frustration spilled into her work. She mocked employees more harshly, demanded perfection, and humiliated anyone who faltered. Frederick quietly observed these behaviors, understanding the depth of her insecurity and fear of losing status. He noticed moments of vulnerability she thought were hidden, a lingering stare at her reflection, a sigh when she thought no one watched. He cataloged these observations, preparing for the pivotal moment that would shift power and reveal hidden truths about both of them. One evening, while Carol prepared for an important client dinner, she slipped on a wet floor near the office kitchen. Frederick, passing by, caught her gently and helped her steady herself. She thanked him curtly, embarrassed at needing assistance from someone she deemed inferior. That moment was subtle, but it left an impression. Frederick realized that Carol's pride made her oblivious to genuine human connection, and he began planning a series of lessons that would teach her humility. Meanwhile, Carol remained unaware that this quiet man she considered insignificant possessed the wealth, power, and control she coveted. Frederick began to manipulate events to expose the fragility of Carol's dominance. He anonymously influenced meetings, redirected client proposals, and subtly corrected mistakes that would otherwise embarrass her. Carol interpreted these successes as luck or coincidence, unaware that her arrogance was being gently but strategically challenged. She continued mocking Frederick publicly during minor incidents, using him as a symbol of her superiority. His calm reactions frustrated her. His silence was not submission. It was deliberate observation, designed to gather all the evidence she herself provided of her arrogance and poor judgment. The tension escalated during a major office event. Frederick accidentally spilled water near Carol's table while carrying supplies. She seized the moment, laughing loudly, mocking his supposed poverty, lack of sophistication, and insignificance. Guests watched uncomfortably as she belittled him in front of everyone. Frederick remained composed, apologized quietly, and walked away without confrontation. Carol felt triumphant, unaware that this public humiliation would trigger a chain of events that would overturn her life entirely. Frederick's patience and planning meant that the real lesson was only beginning, and he knew when the time was right. Carol's arrogance would meet its reckoning. The following morning, Carol arrived at the office expecting to dominate the day as usual. Instead, she found Frederick seated at the head of the boardroom table, dressed sharply, calm, and commanding. Documents revealing his ownership of the company and related holdings were presented. The room fell silent. Carol's jaw tightened as reality sank in. Her insults, her mockery, and her dismissive behavior were laid bare. Frederick did not yell, did not gloat. He simply demonstrated authority and consequence. Karma unfolded quietly but decisively, and Carol realized for the first time the full extent of the man she had humiliated. Carol's world unraveled in the days that followed. Michael disappeared, leaving her to confront debts and responsibilities she had ignored. Friends abandoned her. Invitations ceased, and she was forced to sell possessions to survive. For the first time, she experienced life without admiration or power. She waited in lines, was ignored by former acquaintances, and felt the isolation of invisibility. Each moment was a lesson in humility, a reminder that arrogance and cruelty carried consequences. Frederick observed without interference, allowing her to experience the full impact of the choices she had made and the attitude she had maintained for years. Frederick rebuilt the company according to principles of integrity, kindness, and accountability. He promoted employees who demonstrated humility and rewarded those who acted with honesty. He met Evelyn Moore, a strategist shaped by resilience, intellect, and empathy rather than privilege. They connected gradually, developing mutual respect and admiration. Frederick's life gained richness through authentic relationships rather than wealth alone. He understood that the true measure of influence was not how much one could command, but how much one could guide responsibly. Carol, meanwhile, had begun to confront her flaws and learn patience, humility, and accountability in her new reality. Months later, Carol applied for a junior position in one of Frederick's subsidiaries, unaware of the ownership behind it. When they met, she apologized genuinely, without pretense or expectation. Frederick listened but did not immediately forgive. He offered her a path forward, not as mercy, but as an opportunity to rebuild herself. Carol worked diligently, learning respect, humility, and the value of authentic effort. Frederick observed her progress quietly, noting the subtle shifts in her behavior and mindset. Karma had run its course, and Carol now faced the consequences with sincerity, shaping her personal growth and maturity. Frederick's influence expanded outside the company. He invested in charitable initiatives, community programs, and projects that empowered overlooked individuals. His public persona remained minimal, but his impact was profound. Evelyn and Frederick developed a partnership based on trust, vision, and shared values, which strengthened both their personal and professional lives. Carol continued to grow under her new responsibilities, gradually finding satisfaction in honest work rather than status-driven victories. The city remained unaware of the dramatic shifts in leadership and human dynamics that had occurred quietly but irrevocably. Frederick occasionally tested Carol subtly, assigning tasks that required judgment, empathy, and patience. She faltered at times but steadily improved, learning to respect others and manage challenges without arrogance. The lessons were painful but necessary. Carol began to understand that her previous life of domination and control was unsustainable. She observed how Frederick treated employees and clients alike, with dignity and calm authority, and realized that influence rooted in respect was far more powerful than fear or status. Her personal transformation became as significant as the financial or corporate lessons she had endured. In one instance, Carol faced a complex client dispute alone. Previously, she would have relied on intimidation to prevail. Now, she approached the situation with careful listening, empathy, and strategic thinking. She resolved the conflict effectively, impressing both the client and Frederick. He recognized her growth silently, understanding that real change took time and experience. Carol herself began to feel the satisfaction of earning respect genuinely rather than demanding it. This was a true turning point in her transformation, marking a shift from arrogance to humility that would define her future decisions and relationships. Frederick and Evelyn developed plans to expand their philanthropic and business initiatives together. Carol, now positioned as a competent junior executive, began contributing meaningfully. She discovered that collaboration, patience, and ethical decision-making could create opportunities more sustainable than manipulation or status. Each day provided lessons in leadership, self-awareness, and human psychology. Carol reflected often on the events that had humbled her, realizing that humiliation, patience, and strategic observation had reshaped her life. Frederick remained a steady guide and observer, allowing her to experience consequences and growth naturally. The company culture shifted completely under Frederick's guidance. Employees who had once been fearful or overlooked became empowered. Performance was measured by effort, creativity, and integrity, not rank or appearance. Carol contributed actively, learning to value team success over personal dominance. She observed Frederick's leadership style, calm, patient, and decisive, and internalized many of these qualities. Gradually, her sense of pride transformed into confidence rooted in skill rather than ego. Frederick, satisfied with the structural and human changes he had overseen, prepared for the next stage of growth, ensuring the company and people alike thrived sustainably. Frederick and Evelyn's relationship strengthened, blending personal affection with professional synergy. Together, they initiated projects that uplifted communities, enhanced corporate social responsibility, and inspired employees. Carol observed and participated in these initiatives, appreciating the difference between manipulation and genuine influence. Her transformation was nearly complete, as she recognized the importance of humility, patience, and empathy. Frederick maintained his calm authority, rewarding learning and growth rather than punishing past failures. The ripple effects of these changes extended beyond the company into social networks, client relationships, and personal interactions, proving that integrity and patience created lasting power. Carol faced her final test when a critical project threatened to collapse due to external pressures. Previously, she would have panicked or attempted to dominate the situation. Now, she approached it strategically, delegating, listening, and adapting. The project succeeded, earning praise from Frederick, Evelyn, and clients alike. Carol felt genuine pride in her abilities and growth. Frederick, observing, recognized that karma had done its work, teaching her humility, patience, and responsibility. The experience solidified the lessons she had learned over months of challenges, humiliation, and careful guidance. The city continued its rhythm, unaware of the transformations within Frederick's company and the personal journeys of its key players. Carol's new approach earned her respect and stability, while Frederick quietly maintained his influence, blending discretion with decisive action. Evelyn supported and guided Frederick, creating a partnership that balanced vision, ethics, and human empathy. Together, the three demonstrated that patience, humility, and strategic observation could reshape not only careers but lives. The narrative of power, arrogance, and karma concluded with new beginnings, lessons learned, and a foundation built for sustainable success. Frederick reflected on his journey privately, satisfied that patience and discretion had produced profound change. Carol had learned humility, Michael had vanished, and the company now functioned on principles of integrity and respect. Evelyn remained a constant support and equal partner, ensuring that personal growth and business ethics aligned. Frederick's quiet observation, disciplined planning, and willingness to remain unseen until the right moment had reshaped multiple lives. Karma had been delivered subtly, yet decisively, proving that long-term vision, patience, and human understanding were more powerful than immediate vengeance or domination. In the end, Carol embraced her new role with awareness, humility, and confidence grounded in skill rather than status. She built genuine relationships with colleagues, contributed meaningfully to projects, and understood the difference between admiration earned and imposed. Frederick's approach of silent observation, patience, and strategic timing ensured that the lessons she learned were permanent. Evelyn and Frederick continued to expand influence ethically, proving that leadership rooted in respect, empathy, and intelligence could outlast arrogance and ego. The city moved forward, unaware that the quiet man in plain clothes had quietly reshaped the lives of those who once scorned him. Frederick and Carol's interactions, once defined by mockery and arrogance, became professional and respectful. Carol's transformation became a testament to the power of humility, patience, and strategic guidance. Frederick's wealth remained hidden from public display, Yet his influence and ethical leadership shaped both the company and the people within it. Evelyn remained his partner in every sense, personal, professional, and ethical, helping to ensure that all decisions were aligned with integrity. Together, they created a world where actions, not appearances, determined success, and where arrogance met consequence while humility found reward. The final days of transition saw Carol fully immersed in her responsibilities, demonstrating competence, empathy, and resilience. Frederick observed quietly, knowing that her journey from arrogance to accountability was complete. Evelyn supported the process, balancing strategic foresight with ethical considerations. The company thrived under these new dynamics. Clients appreciated transparent leadership, and employees felt empowered to contribute meaningfully. Carol reflected on her past mistakes, understanding that the humiliation and challenges she endured had been necessary catalysts for her personal growth. The narrative of karma, patience, and new beginnings reached its conclusion, leaving lives forever changed. Frederick's story concluded not with fame, but with quiet impact. His choices, patience, and careful observation had reshaped not only Carol's life, but also the culture and direction of the company. Evelyn remained a constant and supportive partner, blending intelligence with empathy to maintain ethical growth. Carol's lessons of humility and accountability became integrated into her approach, proving that personal growth can emerge from adversity and consequence. The city continued obliviously, but within the walls of the company, transformation had taken place. The tale of arrogance, patience, and karma ended with new beginning for all involved, illustrating the power of silent strategy and human understanding. I'm glad you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to follow, share, and comment your thought about the story. See you in the next story.